Have you ever wondered why most cameras look the same? The same dials, body shape, design style. When your friend says he bought a new camera, you kind of know what to expect. But there is one camera that is completely different from everything else the market has seen in the digital age, the Leica TL2. In this video I'm going to tell you why the Leica TL2 was ahead of its time when released, how it can make you feel more joy when taking photographs, and if you should consider buying it. So what makes the Leica TL2 as a camera? It dawned on me one afternoon in London. I needed to test a couple of new lenses, and so I went out to take photos with the Fujifilm X-E3 and the Leica TL2. I started with the Fuji and spent a good chunk of time snapping one photo after another. It was a nice experience and I enjoyed the process of composing my street photographs. 3 hours later I was getting tired and thought about going back home, but this was the first time I took the TL2 out on a proper photo walk, so I decided to push myself a little bit more and give it a chance. I started snapping pictures and then, after about 10 minutes, something happened. I realized that my energy is back and that I am smiling while composing shots and pressing the shutter button. Most photos I took that day were utter rubbish, partly because I battled with a new manual focus lens, but that's besides the point. I still tremendously enjoyed the experience and didn't want to stop. But like most of you, I also have life outside of photography, so after a while I started to head back home. I hopped on a train and for the whole time sitting there, I couldn't stop playing with the camera. I was swiping through the photos I took and wondered, what is so magical about the TL2? If you've been watching my videos for a while, you know how much I like the Fujifilm X-E3. It's the only Fuji camera I kept after selling the X Pro 3 because it ticks so many important boxes. And you also know that my daily driver is the excellent Leica CL. But the Leica TL2 has something extra. It was designed in a way that brings joy and playfulness to the process of taking pictures. And when I say designed, I mean everything, from the noble materials, through elegant timeless shape, to the most simple, intuitive and easy to use menu in any digital camera ever. And joy is what you feel after a good meditation practice. Only with the Leica TL2, you also get nice photographs as a result. But is this the reason why the TL2 was ahead of its time? We know that Leica designers and engineers thought about the user experience. Simplicity of design and operation are the main foundations of the Leica philosophy, and it shows in all their cameras. Leica rangefinders have not changed much in over 100 years, despite going through adaptation to the digital era. The professional SL line has not moved away from this philosophy either, but in the year of 2014, Leica moved beyond their standard and reached what I see as the pinnacle of simple, functional and modern camera design. The Leica T was so new and different from anything the market had seen before that its polarizing design choices divided the photography public into admirers and haters. Unfortunately, the camera wasn't well received by the leading reviewers. They criticized it for having slow firmware and the touchscreen controls for not being intuitive enough. But it often happens with completely new products, and in today's fast-paced world, nobody is waiting for firmware updates. But Leica persevered and 3 years later released the third iteration of the original T, the much improved TL2. Just like the original, also the newest version is carved from a single block of aluminium into an elegant, eye-pleasing shape. The large touchscreen stretches across the whole back side of the camera, the metal wheels and buttons on top are as solid as they could be, and the smooth grip at the front invites you to wrap your fingers around it. Leica didn't change what worked, but instead focused on speed and functionality. The TL2 internals are much improved and it shows in the responsiveness of the touchscreen and the speed of focus. And until today, the Leica TL2 still looks like a camera that came back from the future. Gestures on a touchscreen can be found on every modern digital camera, but those will have buttons too. And muscle memory is a funny thing. Once you start using buttons, the touchscreen feels like an afterthought. Too many options distract your brain, but if you use a camera where everything is touch-based, your brain adapts and you will enjoy it. Especially when it's designed as good as the Leica TL2 is. Menu in the TL2 not only uses icons that looks like apps in a smartphone, it's also the simplest menu ever in a modern digital camera. But simple wouldn't be enough, the menu is also highly functional and intuitive. It didn't look like that to me until I got my own TL2. Like the rest of the camera also, its menu has to be experienced to be fully appreciated. The way you change settings, add functions to the quick selection menu, change their order or drop them off to the bin is like nothing else you have ever experienced with a digital camera. At first sight, it looks silly and unnecessary, but after 5 minutes of use, you wonder why anyone would design a camera menu any other way. What I'm describing is normal on a smartphone, but in a dedicated large sensor digital camera, it was and still is genius. The Leica T and her younger sisters not only laid the path for the now strong L-mount alliance, it also showed us how cameras can look, that we don't have to follow decades-old designs, and that when we leave the limitations of the past, possibilities become limitless. Paired with the excellent Leica TL or the very good Sigma L-mount lenses, the TL2 is good enough for most day-to-day photography, and in combination with a small lens like the 80mm L-Marit or 23mm Samicron, also forms a very nice walkabout rig that is not far from the likes of Ricoh GR3 or Fujifilm X100V. So should you start looking through eBay and used sections at your local Leica dealer if they have a nice TL2 in stock? And should you buy it? You may know that this camera has been made officially obsolete together with the whole Leica APS-C lineup. And unless Sigma or Panasonic step in and create a new crop sensor L-mount camera, you'll have a hard time using the brilliant Leica APS-C lenses on anything else. You see where the logic goes, right? Logic also says that there are cameras with better autofocus. The TL2 comes with a small battery, so powering autofocus isn't top tier. It's adequate for accuracy, just not for high-speed action. There are also many cameras with built-in viewfinder that have larger eyepiece and higher resolution, and cameras with flippy LCD and marked buttons. And that if you absolutely have to buy a used, obsolete Leica crop sensor camera, you are better off adding a few $100s to your budget and getting the obvious alternative. But life lived by only following logic would be a boring, predictable desert, and if we chose camera gear only by following logic, we would all be shooting with the latest and greatest Sony Alpha full-frame cameras. But if you are still watching this video, you are not that person. You are not that type of photographer. You are not chasing megapixels, you don't need to eye track your puppy, and you are not arguing at online forums that full frame is the only way to go. And while you do care about the final result and image quality, you are also after the experience, feelings, and tranquility of the picture taking process. The Leica TL2 is just that, a photography tool that can produce very good images and, at the same time, offer the intangible but desirable feeling that only a well-designed, unique and timeless product can provide. So, can I recommend the Leica TL2? No. And yes. Not as the one and only camera, it has quirks that can put you off, and if it's the only camera you own, you will get tired of them after a while. But if you already own another L-mount camera and a few lenses, the TL2 is an excellent option for when you need to take a break and have some mindful time using the most sexy camera ever made. But there are better thought out alternatives that are not far away from providing the Zen-like feeling this whole video is about, and as a long-time user I have to bring the Leica CL to the mix. So if you are not ready to commit to the TL2, you need to watch this video next to find out why the CL has been my daily driver for the last 3 years.